Today's Black Panther article from September 20th, 1969 is Industrialists versus the People. Rich men make decisions and brown people get laid off their jobs, get evicted from their homes, get beat up in the streets by racist cops. Decisions are made as if brown people don't exist, by men in plush chairs, behind long mahogany tables, men who know nothing about brown people except that they are a cheap source of labor power. The masses of brown people are not to be owners of property or businesses, but the poorest class of laborers, to be used for the hardest jobs, picking cotton in the Southwest, working in garment factories and steel mills. This has always been true. The copper companies of Arizona from 1875 right through the 1940s carried Mexican employees on the payrolls under a special heading of Mexican labor and paid them less for the same labor. In Texas, the Shell Oil Company had two rates of pay for the same work, a white rate for the Anglos and a non-white rate for brown and black people. It's worse today, even though the politicians have done their best to cover up with poverty programs and welfare. A good example of how the politicians lie to the people is Mayor Alioto's mini park, an effort to smooth over the fact that the Mission District falls 65 acres short of the minimum requirements for parks set by the city of San Francisco itself for minimum human existence. And Alioto's mini park is getting even smaller as even more new families are crowded into the Mission. Fewer and fewer jobs, higher and higher prices. Where is this going to end? Well, take a look at where the problems begin, where the decisions are made. Every 4 years, 500 or so of the world's most powerful businessmen meet to decide how to get the most profit out of the people and natural resources of the world. These men sit on the board of directors of U.S. Steel, Bank of America, Standard Oil, and other huge banks and corporations that have offices and industrial plants all over the world. This year, on September 15th through 19th, these men will be meeting at the International Industrialist Conference in San Francisco. To get an idea of what they'll be talking about and planning, look at what they've planned in the past. First of all, they have decided that it doesn't pay to have factories in San Francisco anymore. It's much cheaper to pay workers in Latin America and Asia to make commodities that they sell. In Latin America, the standard of living is much lower, so the big businesses don't have to pay the workers so much. People work for $1 a day and less, so a factory in Latin America is much more profitable than one here in San Francisco. Ford now has his factories in Brazil and Argentina. Kodak makes photographic paper in Mexico. As a result, workers in San Francisco and Fremont are being laid off. U.S. corporations are making more than $3 billion in profits every year from Latin America, while 2 million people die of starvation and curable diseases there, and unemployment is going up drastically here in the United States. This is called imperialism. But what does imperialism have to do with people in San Francisco and the Mission District? Everything. Because it's not profitable. There's almost no industry left in San Francisco anymore. If you don't have an expensive education, it's almost impossible to get a decent job. Unemployment in San Francisco is going up. It's at 11% for the general population and 18% for the brown men. As industry is moved out to Latin America and Asia, it's necessary to do all the paperwork back here near the port of San Francisco to keep track of all the money. Look at all the new banks and insurance investments companies. San Francisco is being transformed from a factory to an office building for United States imperialism. So there's now a big demand for white-collar workers to man the office. Mission people don't get the education for this kind of work, so they just aren't needed anymore. The big businesses need the kind of skilled workers that live on the peninsula. So they're building BART, Bay Area Rapid Transit, to get these workers back and forth. Just so happens that Bechtel Corporation, the largest construction outfit in the world, is building BART, making millions in profit while working people pay taxes to build BART. Stephen Bechtel and Stephen Bechtel Jr. will be at the International Industrialist Conference this year, of course. BART will have 2 street-level entrances on Mission Street at 16th and 24th Streets. This does not mean just 2 holes in the ground. Mission Street is going to be unrecognizable pretty soon. No more small stores. There will be huge cement plazas along Mission Street, complete with huge fountains and trees surrounded by super modern, high-rise office buildings. Big modern department stores will replace our homes. Expensive high-rise apartments will be built where only bank executives can afford to live. In short, the men who are raking billions of dollars in profits from their investments in Latin America, Asia, and Africa don't need mission people anymore, and they are wiping us out. The same thing is happening to black people in the Fillmore, Chinese people in Chinatown, and white workers all over the city. It's easy to see why people of Vietnam are fighting to kick the U.S. out of their country, and why the people of Latin America rioted when Nelson Rockefeller dared to visit their countries. At the beginning of this article, we asked, where do our problems end? The people of Vietnam and Latin America know that their problems will end with the end of imperialism. People in San Francisco are starting to fight too. There will be demonstrations during the week of the IIC, International Industrialist Conference. Nobody expects the Bank of America or Vegetable Corporation to listen, but what we have to do is let all poor and working people know about what the men at the IIC are doing to them. We have to let people know that it's not crime in the streets that's causing all of our problems, as Nixon and Reagan would have us think. It's the crime of imperialism that we must fight in any way we can.